Great pleasure to extend to you all a very warm welcome to this webinar on business opportunities in dark continent on behalf of TMA. Africa is abundantly rich in natural resources, hydroelectric power, unexploited reserves of natural gas, diamond, platinum, large deposits of uranium, iron ore, gold, and copper. Again, Africa is home to about 60% of the uncultivated arable land in the world, while a meager 10% of the land is being cultivated. This implies that agricultural sector contains enormous potential that has not been fully harnessed. Again, Africans have embraced digital transformation in all its form. The high internet penetration and the use of smartphones present investment opportunities for e-commerce, mobile, financial, and payment solutions. Finally, it is worth mentioning that the stock market is quite vibrant. Sub-Saharan Africa has an estimated 29 stock exchanges spanning 38 countries with varying sizes and trading volumes. As business leaders and entrepreneurs seek to explore new markets, the African business environment can satisfy their insatiable appetite for risk and profitable investment. We are privileged that we have with us Mr. Ganesh Kumar, MD, Aoki Fabricon Private Limited, Pune, who is who has successful business operations in 21 African countries, and he is the most appropriate person to enlighten us business opportunities in dark continent. Now, let me welcome our dynamic president, Mr. Rajesh Jha, to this webinar. I now welcome Mr. Ganesh Kumar, a successful professional manager and entrepreneur. I also welcome our energetic secretary, Mr. A. Sunil Kumar, and MC member, Mr. K.S. Dilip Kumar. I welcome one and all who are attending this seminar.
Thank you, sir. President, we welcome you for the presidential address.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Jayachandran, Mr. Ganesh Kumar, who is our guest speaker today, and Mr. Dilip Kumar, our secretary, Mr. Sunil. I'm really very happy that we have chosen a very, very eminent speaker. And as though the topic suggests something different, but I would say that Africa is a very, very rich continent. And there's huge wealth that is to be explored. And that is what Mr. Ganesh Kumar was talking to us before starting this session. I think there has to be more of India going into Africa. And that will not come mainly from the government side. We have to have more of Ganesh Kumars. And I would say that today's session will enlighten many to explore the beauty, richness, and the vastness of Africa, that continent that is. And I also think that Mr. Ganesh Kumar will be able to guide people from TMA and its associates if somebody has an entrepreneurial streak and they want to do something in Africa. Having said that, Mr. Ganesh Kumar, with his rich experience having offices in 21 African countries, and Africa from one part to the other part, from South Africa to the North Africa, is completely different. So I'm very keen, like all of you, to listen to Mr. Ganesh Kumar and understand his perspective as to how we can bring more of India into Africa. Thank you.
Now, it's my privilege and great honor to introduce our speaker of today. In fact, while going through his brief CV, which we received, because I assume that there will be many things which we don't know from the short CV. But reading the short CV, what I could understand is that we want to hear one more session from him on the subject of entrepreneurship, because while I went through his CV, I could see a very big leap of growth which he created on his company Aoki Fabricon, from a 14 lakh turnover to a large business group with a 600 crores per turnover per year. So it's a very remarkable achievement over a period of 30 years for a Keralite entrepreneur focusing on MSME. So we would be happy to hear him often on entrepreneurship also. Our young members would be highly benefiting from it. So coming to his introduction part, let me put the brief in a brief way. He completed his graduation from Kerala. After his graduation, he went to Pune at the Symbiosis Institute of Management and completed his post-graduation from there. Later on, he joined a construction company called Western India Erectors in Pune, and there he worked for 3 years. In the year 1984, he, along with his partner, Mr. Krishnan Kutty, started the Aoki Fabricon Private Limited in a very, which was at that point of time, it was a very humble beginning with a small turnover of 14 lakhs and a workforce of 150 to 200 people. But the company was focusing on the emerging sector of construction of cement, sugar, and captive power plants worldwide. And the company, over the years of 36 years of business, it has done business in many countries, including UAE, Bahrain, Nepal, and 21 African countries. Presently, the company has a work strength of 6,000 and does a business of, as I earlier said, a business of 600 crores per year. In the year, it did a business of 2014. In the year 2014, it did a business of 600 crores. Now he is considering his expertise in the area of cement plant manufacturing as well as plant manufacturing. He has been nominated by Government of Kerala in the boards of the PSU cement companies, this Malabar Cements Limited and Travancore Cements Limited. So he has been advising government on many of the strategic matters related to the PSU. So his experience is immense. We would be very much benefiting from the experience he would be sharing today. As a professional, I also got a brief opportunity to work in Africa, Rwanda, for some point of time. At that point of time, I was even wondering the exposure of Malayali or Keralite SMEs though there are considerable number of SMEs, Malayalis in Africa, their penetration is not that great as Chinese penetration in those countries. So the SMEs, but still I feel that the SMEs in Trivandrum or Kerala have great scope in the dark continent and in the unexplored continent, even if it is now fairly going to a matured economy. Now, even now also, there is scope, there is potential scope for investment. There will be more potential scope for investment, particularly for SMEs and those operating in service sector in Kerala. So I believe that today's talk will be enlightening many of our entrepreneurs as well as our team members to explore new avenues and opportunities in Africa. I welcome you, sir. Sir, now the dais is for you.
Thank you. Sri Rajesh Jha, the President of TMA, Mr. C.K. Jayachandran, Mr. Sunil Kumar, Mr. K.S. Dilip Kumar, other members of TMA. First of all, let me thank you for giving an opportunity to address you. Though I'm not a very good speaker, but more I can say, if it would have been an interaction section, which I could have done better. I didn't do any, I don't have any PowerPoint presentation or something which I have to do. In fact, wherever I go, as I started before this meeting also, people have been asking me to talk about Africa. First of all, let me correct, I don't consider Africa as a dark continent. Africa was a dark continent in 19th century when the slavery was there. Europeans used to call them as dark continent because the missionaries who were working there, a lot of them had malaria and such diseases by which a lot of them died. So that has made the Europeans to call Africa as a dark continent. But to me, especially for my company Aoki Fabricon, that is the company, this is the continent which has given light to us. This continent has got 54 countries. We have already executed projects in 50% of that, that is 27 countries. Some of them are though small but much developed, especially countries like South Africa, Mauritius, they're also part of Africa. These countries are developed where countries like India, our products, you can find similar products or a better product with the European engineering and all. So these are countries where we don't have much of trading, but we had a good link, especially when it was a part of Commonwealth nation. A lot of us, our Indians, especially from the Gujarat part, have migrated to those places. There's a big difference between the migrants from Gujarat as well as the migrant from Kerala, because mostly when we talk about Pravasis, we all have a feeling that it is Kerala who heads the Pravasis. Actually, I went around about 70 to 80 countries. I've seen the Pravasis from India are more of people from Gujarat, from Tamil Nadu. We come only fourth, but still we consider ourselves as Pravasis because the people from Kerala, wherever they stay, they would like to watch Asianet TV, and they would still like to have their residence in Kerala itself. Whereas those whom you can find who have migrated to Africa, either from Tamil Nadu or from Gujarat, you will find most of these people have become people of Indian origin. They become locals. They speak the local language, especially in East Africa, Swahili. In West Africa, people who have shifted there, mostly French speaking. We, as during the introduction, Sunil has mentioned that we have entered into this continent in 2020. Before that, let me just tell you what is my business, Aoki Fabricon. To start with, I have to say what is Aoki. Myself and my partner, Mr. Krishan Gutti, we both were working in this construction company, and we left and started a business in 1984 in the name of New Tech Construction. We wanted to make this company to a private limited company. Unfortunately, the similar name was already there with the Bombay Register of Companies. So we were to get an NOC from that company. When we failed to get that NOC, we were already doing a job with a Japanese company called Nippon Express. They are the people who have given me the suggestion of a word called Avoki, A-V-O-K-I. A-V-O-K-I, Avoki means a tree which grows, branches out, and gives shelter to many. The most important thing today, I can say that when he has mentioned about 6,000 people working with us, at least we could make the name correct by giving shelter to at least 6,000 families. So why it became Aoki? The time when I started this company, I had no typewriting machine or a computer or anything. I used to fill up this form with an ink pen. I used to use a pen called Hero. So in the V, while writing V, it had a tail. And only because of that pen, just scratched the tail. So by mistake, it was registered as Aoki instead of Avoki. I tried to rectify this, making visits every week to the Register of Companies in Bombay, traveling all the way from Pune by taking a train in the early morning. Later on, we felt that let it be Aoki. In Hindi, we can say, Jo yogi nahi ho ayogya. So that is how this name came, Aoki. And we started in Africa with a very small project to execute a clinker grinding unit on the southeast of Africa, a very small country called Mozambique. If you see in my life, I have also come from the extreme south of India. So in a globe, if you really wanted to grow, and if you're in south, you have to move upward. So similarly, like I have gone from here to Pune to study, then moved all around India, executing many projects. So in Africa also, I started from Mozambique and moved all around Africa, east, west, south, north. So when you move around in Africa, we can find East African countries, especially there's a community called East African Group, East African countries, consisting of 5 countries: Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi. They've got an East African Union. Here you will find a lot of Indians who are doing the business there. Many of them have moved on to manufacturing in the last 1 decade. Prior to that, most of them were into trading. But originally, 3 or 4 generations back, they have gone as farmers, either for sugarcane farming or as railway workers. The 3rd generation, 4th generation, they have all moved on to the business. The large business people like Mayur Madhwani, Surendra Mehta, that is Jay Mehta's father. They are all into large business in tea estates, sugar plants, distilleries, breweries. In fact, if you see into the East African country, the economy is controlled by the Indians. They don't enter into the politics of those countries, but they control the economy. When we talk about the business opportunities in Africa, once again, I don't want to call us dark continent, that's why I'm saying Africa. I am more into project export than into commodity export. Commodity export also, you can see a lot of people who are into commodity export, because till recent time, I can say a decade back, all the African countries were dumping yard for the used materials, either the vehicles or the clothes, from European countries. But those situations have gone. Even we used to export a lot of fish from India, either from Gujarat or from Kerala, to African countries. But that was not the best quality fish which you sent. But today, they also have got the inspection systems, and they also wanted to have the quality like what is been accepted by European countries. Because what they've done, they've started taking the commodities from Asian countries, keeping European inspection agencies. To quote a few examples, sugar, we all use the plantation white sugar, which we are using as an edible item, except those who are very rich who can go for refined sugar. But Africa, you can see either refined sugar or only raw sugar. That is more healthy, because the plantation white sugar, what we use, we are adding sulfur and lime to that, which are not good for the health, which the dark continent people knows better than the lighted continent like Asia. So when I moved into these countries, many people have told it's very dangerous to move into those countries. Then I told I have been working in Karimnagar of Andhra Pradesh, Jharkhand, many disturbed areas of northeast states. So I didn't find much difference. In fact, I found it is more safer when I moved into these African countries. Like I mentioned about this East African Union, there is something called COMESA. This is actually a common market for Eastern and South African countries. They had an organization earlier to have a common platform for export of commodities, which later on they made into an organization called COMESA, where they had 19 countries. Of late, 2 more countries have joined, that is Tunisia and Somalia. I think now they have 21 countries. But with all these COMESA also, you have a lot of issues, because every country has got its own currency and its own financial policies. Though the countries are of the size of our states, the population also is comparatively lesser than our states, each countries. They have got their separate rules and regulations framed as a republic countries. If you go to the Western Africa, you will find small countries, but most of them are French speaking. And they have got two groups, one called the Central African CFA and the West African CFA. The Western African CFA is a common currency which you can use in countries like Ivory Coast, Senegal, Togo, Benin, Burkina Faso, Guinea-Bissau. All these countries, they use the same currency, which is one CFA. Similarly, you come to the central part, you'll find Central African Republic, Chad. These are all French-speaking countries. Republic of Congo, not Democratic Republic of Congo, Republic of Congo, they are all have got a separate CFA. So these countries, if you're doing a business, 7 of them have got same currency, another 5 have got another different currency. So those countries are having a better arrangement compared to the COMESA as well as East African Union. East African Union, especially on the Victoria Basin, on the banks of Victoria Lake, they have the same soil what we have in the Deccan part of India, the black soil, which is very suiting for the sugar cultivation, where long back, maybe 3 generations, 4 generations, a lot of Indians have migrated as cane cutters and all. When it was Commonwealth countries, they also must have traveled like slaves. But today, why still Africa is called dark continent? Because this slavery has gone from the Europeans, they have been thrown out, but the Indian businessmen today, they are behaving like the old Europeans, and the Africans are still slaves. They have to change their attitude before the Africans really start reacting. Because I have seen in many rich communities, whom, as I mentioned earlier also, who control the economy of Africa in eastern part, they still keep the local people as slaves. When I entered into Africa, especially in Eastern Africa, to build up some sugar plants, the minimum wages of people who were drawing, for the local people who were drawing salary, that was $50 to $60 a month. $50 to $60 a month, that time it was amounting to 2,500 to 3,000 rupees when you convert to Indian rupees. I'm talking per month, where you don't get even a maid servant at your house in Kerala. So with these salaries, when we went, many people have told that you'll have a lot of problems with the local people. But I found that first time when I've gone to Mozambique, I met the labor minister for getting a permission to bring about 60, 70 people from India to execute a project. So she told Mr. Kumar, we have a lot of unemployment in this country. So why do you want to bring people from India? I told, ma'am, your people will remain as unemployed if I don't bring these people from India. Because there is somebody who wants to invest for a cement plant. I can bring the people and I'll keep same amount of people local, and I'll take back my people when the project is over. By the time your people will be trained, who will be having a permanent employment. Today, in Kenya alone, we have created such about 400 to 500 skilled people whose salaries are $500 to $600 a month. 10 years back or 15 years back, they were really taking about $50 a month. So this type of a feel, if you give to those people, they'll welcome you, they'll support you. You can do wonderful business. As during the introduction, Mr. Jayachandran as well as Mr. Rakesh Jha all have told, this is a continent blessed with a lot of minerals. You go to Zambia, the whole world's 60% of copper remains there. You go to Zimbabwe, on the surface you can find coal. You're not even starting the mining on the surface itself. Platinum, you name any material, any metal, you can find in all these African countries. So it's a God's gifted continent. So we should call instead of dark continent as a God gifted continent with so much of wealth inside that, which have been looted by the Europeans and making these people continue to be slaves. Later on, when some of these people who have become politicians, these people have been purchased. So even today, if you see, most of the copper mines in Zambia, it is still owned by Concona Mines, the American companies. Recently, about 4-5 years back, these mines have been taken over by our group, Anil Agarwal Group. So we have a lot of Indians employed in Zambia because of this taking over by Anil Agarwal. Similarly, we have one customer with whom we have been working. He's the richest African citizen. I cannot talk about Africa without taking his name, because when I started my entry in Africa, he was putting up his first cement plant. Today, he is the largest cement producers in Africa, having 27 million tons of cement production spread over 15 African countries, and putting up the largest grassroots refinery, nothing lesser than Reliance Jamnagar, with an investment of $12 billion in Nigeria. Nigeria is, again, it is blessed with so much of oil reserves inside the country. So this is the first time they're going for a oil refinery. He's also into sugar business. So his first cement plant, we happen to be the construction partner to him to execute the plant. That was in 2002. Since then, every year, at an average of $50 to $60 million of business, I'm doing with this one agency. Similarly, we have some certain customers in the Western Africa, in Togo, Benin area, where we have one customer who has got about 6 million tons of cement production till now. All the plants have been constructed by us. So what I wanted to say is, if you are ready to take a risk, remove from your mind that you are not going to be harmed by anybody. Africa will be the happy hunting ground, because most of the Europeans have already realized. They started moving to Africa, putting up their offices in there. In heavy engineering, especially when I'm talking about cement industry or a steel plant, most of the manufacturers are from Germany. Today, you can see they have a Mediterranean division or an African division to take care of the sales of only Africa. Africa, as I told, have given light to not only me, many others, especially a company called Dangote Group, have given till now business worth 1,600 million, $1,600 million of business to Indian companies. Directly, he has employed about 850 Indian engineers, indirectly maybe 8,500. So this is the type of employment opportunities one customer has given. Like that, many more. Every country when you go, you will find a lot of Indians working there, doing trading business, doing this telecommunication business. Plenty of opportunities. There are small. We should more concentrate on small countries rather than going to larger countries like Nigeria or Kenya or some countries. We have very, very small countries like Malawi, Namibia, Botswana on the south, towards the west, Ivory Coast, Ghana. These are the countries who have got tremendous opportunities. I hope I have time, or if I have to stop somewhere, you have to let me know, because you have to have some question answer session also. That's why I told, if you have to talk about Africa,
Sir, I think, sir, you can continue up to 7:30, sir. After that, we can have the question answer session.
No, because Africa, as I told you, this is the continent which has got the maximum number of countries, 54. No other continent has got more than 50 countries. So when you talk about the culture, it is 54 different culture, 54 different, out of 54, at least you will find about 30, 40 different languages. On the north, you will find the Arab culture. On the East African countries, you will find a Swahili different culture. On the West African countries, you will find the French culture. And if you go to some countries like Morocco and all, you will doubt whether you are in Africa or you are in Europe. The culture, the grooming of the people, the country's development, totally different from other African countries. At the same time, if you go to Libya, Egypt, it is nothing different than Arab countries. Sudan, of course, they don't have that much of wealth what other Arab countries, GCC nations have got. But the culture remains the same. So that's why I told, when you talk about Africa, there's a small country called Swaziland, which is between South Africa and Mozambique, still ruled by a king. You must have heard a king who marries every year. That is the country. But very rich in wealth. Their currency is just equivalent to South African rand. More into tourism and agricultural products, which they have proved to the other part of world that in a small country with less commodities, but they can be happy, good economical background, good economy, and because farmers are dedicated to their farming, and they have also got 2 or 3 sugar plants in that small country. Their consumption is very less, but they export to the other African countries. Similarly, Mozambique, it's a Portuguese-speaking country. In the whole 54, there are only 2 Portuguese-speaking countries, Angola and Mozambique. See, there's a very big difference when you find Commonwealth nations, African countries versus India or other Asian countries, which was ruled by the Britishers or the Europeans. We got the independence through peace. They got through violence. Of course, when they became independent, whoever was ruling these countries, they have burned these countries and gone. Another thing, we Indians, though we were ruled for 100 years by the Britishers, we had a culture of ours, Indian culture. So we continued with that culture and adopted whatever good things Europeans have taught us. That was the difference in Africa. What happened, why they only learned the bad things which have been taught to them, working only for earning to take care of their daily needs. Friday they get drunk, Saturday, Sunday they don't even get up. They have got the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, their nightlife is so much that they don't, it get extended till sunrise. So these are certain things we never learned. And when we go into the Indian culture, we find that our ancestors have worked without looking at the clock, without looking at the family, to overcome that 100 years which we have gone behind. That's why we came as number 7 in world economy or number 2 in the purchasing power and all, which Africa is even today maybe 100 years behind. Main reasons, even the Europeans wanted to keep those countries not to be developed, but slowly, when they started realizing, now they are totally into the development move. You cannot sell any commodity just like that to African country. Even when we go for the project exporters, they have made rules today to bring people through those countries, and you have to give an assurance that you are also going to train so many people who are getting an employment opportunity at the later part when the project is completed. So these systems were not there when 2 decades back when I entered into this continent. So these are some good signs we can see. But where do we stand when we compare with Chinese? Because they are capturing all these nations by funding to such an extent to beat us, whatever way they can do, they'll just do. I lost certain jobs, not because of my price or about the quality of job. It's only because of the funding arrangement. This has been brought up by me even in a seminar conducted by Exim Bank of India. The difference is, before starting, when we had a chat with Jasser, I mentioned, they have pumped in about $300 billion. I was talking about Mozambique. They are the people who made the airport in Mozambique. They are the people who are running the transport system in Mozambique. The transport system in Mozambique is public transport. It's operated in such a way, say every 10, 15, 20 kilometers, there's a maintenance workshop run by the Chinese. But the vehicle is driven by the locals. So they make sure that they maintain this whole system and they charge for it. And slowly, this country will come to a condition that they will not be able to repay. So this country will automatically become a colony of China. Now, on the contrary, when we go, our Exim Bank of India, I call them as an NGO than calling them as a bank, because they finance for country to country on a sovereign guarantee to bring water to some villages, or giving close to some villages, or bringing a school to some villages, to country, to maintain a good relation between the countries. I will call them as NGOs. It's not a banking business. I have come across an organization called Public Investment Corporation in South Africa. What they have is, whatever the excess fund the public sector has got, like our Provident Fund, unclaimed amount laying in Provident Fund. They've also got something called Social Security Fund, or LIC of India, the unclaimed amount laying in LIC of India. These money are transferred to this Public Investment Corporation. Public Investment Corporation lend this money to project developers when they are going for a project at 3 to 4% interest. This money are given in such a condition that the product and execution services to be taken from their country. Similarly, if Indian Exim Bank takes out this money from XLIC, Provident Fund, unclaimed amount, which must be about 75,000 crores or 100,000 crores, and lend this money to all these African countries, keeping a condition that the product should be taken from India and services should be taken from India. It gives a lot of business to India in manufacturing, in sales, and a lot of job opportunities to the Indians in execution. In turn, 100 million which is given as a loan at 4% interest or 5% interest comes back by way of purchasing from India, and amount is again returned with interest as a loan repayment. So 100 million, when it is given as a loan to an African country, it comes back to India as 200 million plus interest, giving a lot of opportunities to Indian workers to execute the project in Africa, and similarly to manufacturing units in India. I brought a proposal from somebody to Exim Bank of India. It took 3.5 years to get a sanction letter from them. That also putting 115 conditions by which the customer told, I don't want. But the project still we are executing. And today, with lot many projects spread over 15, 20 countries today, we have about 3,200 Indians and equal amount of locals working in all these projects. Once again, I'll thank you for giving me this opportunity and taking it again to say that this is the continent which has given light to me, my company, my family. So we call it's God's gifted continent, not the dark continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your sharing your experiences on the continent, which we were earlier calling as dark continent, but now onwards we will not be calling it as dark continent after hearing you. So it was really a good talk many of the informations were very new to us, most of us who had not been to Africa or even have only a mild flavor of Africa. So that it was really a good talk hearing you about the continent. So now the session is for question and answers. Participants who are part of the session can unmute their mic and ask any questions, if any.
Good evening, Ganesh ji.
Good evening.
I would like to know what percentage of your revenues is exports and in India.
Sir, I started with this company only doing the Indian business. Later on, when my children as well as my partner's children came into business, we have made separate units for them to handle the Indian business, to take up the civil construction as well as the project execution in mechanical and electrical. So there are two other companies also in the group working in India. So if you take my parent organization, Aoki Fabricon, it's 100% export oriented today. And out of that 100%, if you take that 100% in the group, we do about 700 to 800 crores business, of which 60% is coming from the parent organization. That is 100% export oriented. So I can say in the total business, 60% is from Africa alone.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
One question from my side.
Yeah.
What are the current sunrise sectors in Africa for the investors to look for, particularly the SME people in Kerala who can actually venture in at this point of time?
See, there are three areas. One is like what we do, the project execution. Second, the infrastructure development, because there are a lot of infrastructure development going on in these African countries with their own financing, as well as when it comes to the Chinese financing, we cannot do anything. But there are a lot of countries who doesn't want that country should become a part of Chinese colony or something. So they have their own investment. And there are a lot of countries in the Western Africa who are getting financing from France, because these were French colonies. They all wanted to go directly for infrastructure development. There, if it is into construction business, I am not into that infrastructure construction. I am only into project execution. If you are into roads and bridges and all, there are a lot of opportunities for those people. This is one sector I'm mentioning. Then, a lot of India, especially the state of Kerala, if you see all around the world, the best fabricators who have made the steel fabrication, 90% of them of Keralites. But you don't find even one inside the state. They're all in different part of world. You can set up good fabrication units there. Steel, they're not steel producing countries, but there are a lot of rolling mills. So leaving the higher sections being imported from Turkey or European countries, especially if you go to Russian countries, old Russian, Kazakhstan, such countries, you get steel at much cheaper price. Import those steel. These countries are giving, if it is going to be sold inside that country, it's a duty free. If you're fabricating or manufacturing and exporting to a neighboring country, then you have to pay import duty while bringing the steel. So this is another industry which is popular in Malayali culture. This is something which can be taken up. We have a lot of importers from there because the maximum cashew is coming from African countries. So if you go to Tanzania, if you go to Mozambique, you'll find most of the cashew exporters based in Kerala as well as Singapore having their offices there and godowns there. Why don't you put a cashew processing unit there itself and import only the processed cashew? because the labor is cheaper there compared to Kerala or Singapore. We are bringing the raw cashew here and doing the processing in India.
Mr. Ganesh, one question. In the inaugural, the welcome speech, Mr. Jayachandra was mentioning about the digital transformation. See, what is the scope of in IT-enabled services like, IoT related and all that?
Yeah, no, okay. Of course, it's not a field of mine, but I'll tell you, the countries like Kenya, which is a fast developing today, if you see the exchange rate of Kenyan shillings with US dollar, it was around 100 rupees when 100 shillings when Indian rupees was 55. Today we have gone to 73. They have only moved to 10% more. They are at 111. So that means they are keeping their economy strong. They are one who are moving very fast into IT fields.
Okay.
So if anybody is interested to go for IT industry, they are ready to give land for bringing IT parts in that country.
Kenya. South Africa?
South Africa is not a safe country. They don't welcome outsiders.
Okay.
The culture is totally different.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear?
Yeah.
Sir, one question, because usually when we say about Africa or when we mention Africa, usually our entrepreneurs or new entrants, they fear by hearing the name itself. Now we were mentioning about the safety of investment in South Africa. What is your observation in making an investment in South Africa or other other continents?
South Africa, I will never suggest a good investment place, but rest of African countries are good. But you have to keep in mind that something which we are not supposed to talk in talk when you are arranging an official thing, but the actual fact is all these countries are highly corrupted.
Correct.
The reason for that corruption itself, there is a wide gap between the rich and poor. We have a middle income group, especially we are the only country where there is a upper middle class and lower middle class, which is never heard any part of world. So whereas there is no middle income itself in Africa. So that makes this poor to steal some money and all. But then I've been working there for so many years. If you take care of them, they'll take care of you.
Okay, thank you.
From your experience, which country you find the best country for doing business in Africa?
Today, Ghana is a very good destination. A lot of opportunities have been offered by government. When I say offered by government, it's not like a government announces certain policies and the papers will remain with the bureaucrats or the clerical level people or something, what we find in India or Kerala or anywhere, because government announces a lot of policies. But here, you are able to reach to the ministers, even to the president of the country, with an appointment easily. Can you ever think of getting an appointment with Narendra Modi in the next 6 months' time if you want also? But I can get an appointment with the president of Kenya in a month's time or 10 days' time. It's not for me. Even if you say that I am going to be an investor, he will not even check up how much crores you are going to invest. He will only call you as an investor.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any questions from other participants of the meeting? Thank you, sir. Now I invite Sri Dilip Kumar for today's vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. It is now my pleasant duty to propose a vote of thanks. At the outset, I would like to thank our guest lecturer and resource person, Mr. Kenish Kumar, Managing Director, IOK for Fabrication Limited, for accepting our invitation and enlightening us with his knowledge, which of course he has acquired out of his vast experience in the field. As everybody know, he has traveled a lot, and of course, travel also contributes a lot for developing one's career. He has showered light to the dark continent, or in his, as he mentioned, it's a God-gifted continent, and showed us the various hidden opportunities available there. In fact, he has taken us to a tour to the virtual tour. In fact, it's a virtual tour to the African country and their culture, economy, etc. Sir, we are all inspired by our words, and especially for new entrepreneurs, it was really a motivating speech, since motivation is the drive to achieve a goal. Here, I would like to quote one saying: most people fail in life not because they aim too high and miss, but because they aim too low and hit. In this context, we are proud of you for your achievements and wish you all the best in the coming days. I would like to thank the President of the Trivandrum Management Committee, Mr. Rajesh Jaji, Secretary Mr. Sunil, who has introduced the speaker in a befitting manner, and for their active participation. I would also like to thank the Chairman of the Evening Lecture Committee, Mr. C.K. Jayachandran, for organizing this webinar session. I also thank all the members of the Trivandrum Management Association and all others present here for paying your attention and learning. My deep sense of appreciation and thanks to all the participants who chose to be live with us and attended the webinar with great enthusiasm and made it a successful event. My sincere thanks goes to the Trivandrum Management Evening Committee and Lecture Committee for taking topics that really matters into this age and time. Last but not least, I thank Mr. Mukesh of Trivandrum Management Association for all the technical support and for helping us webcast or webinar. Once again, I thank you all for being with us in this evening. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dilip Kumar, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Ganesh, sir. Thank you, President. And thank you, participants. Thank you, MC member.
Pleasure.
So now we are concluding the session. Thank you, sir. Thank you.